After Marcus Smart agreed to go to LA, Shake Milton and Jordan Goodwin were immediately let go to create cap space at the tax apron. Since Marcus Smart has a biannual exception, it counts against the hard cap and is still included in the tax apron. DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia were given the $14 million mid-level exception, which means instead of acquiring one player, the Lakers ended up with two before Shake Milton's contract was guaranteed. The Lakers dropped him immediately so they don't have to pay anything there. Jordan Goodwin has a guaranteed $25,000 in his $3 million contract, and if the Lakers had picked up that contract, they would likely have to pay something when waived. In short, they have no obligation because the backer is strong, so both players won't impact the Lakers' payroll when waived. When Marcus Smart's signing is official, there will be a $1 million hit to the LA tax apron because they had no choice but to let go of those two players from the lineup. They will face restrictions if they exceed the tax limit. With the buyout and minimum contract players currently revitalizing other teams, if LA exceeds the first tax apron, they won't be able to sign a player with a contract above the mid-level exception from their previous contracts. I think my statement was incorrect. The Lakers cannot acquire a player with a contract starting from the mid-level exception upwards. They will also find it challenging to make trades. If another big-time player is bought out this offseason, they will have no choice but to remove a player to acquire that player. There are 5 players with contracts between $11 to $18 million and one at $1.9 million if they drop one of the 5. The other players with contracts above $11 million are indeed different. They have not given contract extensions to other players like Hachimura because they are still looking for other trade options. Dalton is one of the candidates for trade from the Lakers. There are 2 options for LA regarding Dalton in a trade: either swap for a player or drop picks, either first or second rounders. However, based on reports due to his poor performance in the Summer League, they do not consider him to have first-round value. He has been averaging around 10 points per game with only 27% and 23% shooting. Even though he scored 25 points in one game, he had defensive issues. Additionally, his role on a team is also unclear, as teams today prefer to acquire a shooter or a three-point shooter instead of a 3-and-D player. It's not just his performance that has dropped Dalton's trade value, but also his age. He will turn 25 years old by April 2026, which is considered old for a sophomore player coming from being a prospect. Austin Reeves is about 2.5 years younger than Dalton. However, Austin Reeves was 22 going on 23 when he arrived at the Lakers and had an immediate impact, unlike Dalton, whose role is still unclear. In essence, while Dalton's peers from the draft are becoming fathers, he is becoming a father himself. The transition for the player is already limited. Being 25 years old is considered a peak or prime for a player now in star status. So instead of being a main package, Dalton will just be a pillar in a trade. Still, his value remains relatively high. Minnesota, on the other hand, has not made any major signings this offseason, except perhaps for their draft picks. They still have Gobert Randall McDaniels, Anthony Edwards Naz Reid, and Mike Conley, Terrence Shannon Jr. will fill the position left by Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Minnesota is still competitive for next season. However, they are limited in transactions because they are behind the tax apron by $6 million. According to Kendrick Perkins, if Anthony Edwards does not make it to the finals next season, he will request a trade out of Minnesota. This was immediately contested by other analysts who believe Edwards will not leave. Sometimes Kendrick Perkins has a point. You can decide what kind of point that is. In Minnesota's lineup, 5 players are contracted for 3 more years until 2028, except perhaps for Gobert if he does not lower his contract next season. Anthony Edwards is set to receive a supermax in 2029, and according to Alex Rodriguez, they will have to pay tax just to retain Edwards. I think I've heard that before. By the time Edwards signs a contract, he will be only 28 years old when he gets a supermax contract. However, what Edwards really wants is to become a champion. The only issue is that he might follow in the footsteps of Kevin Garnett, one of the highest paid players back in the late 2000s who moved to the East. It is also difficult to reach the finals when in the West, even though multiple teams make it there every year. There are still teams getting stronger like OKC and Houston following them,